really warm welcome to everybody back to Be Your Own Therapist. And uh, we've got a wonderful hour to spend together. And how we'll start, as usual, is with a short breathing meditation to set our motivation. And then, in that really nice space from a nice ground, we can let percolate up into our mind uh, what the main issues have been this week. So maybe not the the loudest things or the things that have preoccupied us the most, but the niggling things. So we're going to try and tune into what I kind of call the quiet voice. It's probably quiet just for me because I haven't given it enough attention, but the quiet voice may be much louder for you, but it's that one, that real deep kind of inner listening where our conscience lies, or where our sense of care for the world, uh, big issues. So the big important things that aren't necessarily yelling and screaming at us and distracting us, but are there all the time. And so this is our chance in a class like this to be able to bring our Dharma focus, Dharma eyes, uh, to that quiet voice. But to make it all work, we've got to really focus our attention and start from a good frame of mind and a really altruistic heart. So I'm going to get up the beautiful little screen share. Be your own therapist. And as we know, Lama Yeshe often said, we can be our own therapist, but we have to be strong. And I'd add also, we've got to be kind of happy and relaxed. And that's why we do this meditation. So the 9-round breathing, I'll just put that image up there to help with our experience of it. The first thing, of course, is to settle our posture and make sure that our spine is fairly straight and feels really strong and stable like a pillar. Each vertebrae, like each brick, supporting the one above it. So we feel that stability. We let our spine naturally align. And then make sure your head's just tilted slightly forward and your chin tucked in. And then you can relax your shoulders. Let out any stale air from the lungs. Take a really nice deep breath and let it out again just naturally. Then bringing your focus inwards, starting by imagining that you're breathing out through your left nostril and in through your right nostril. So it's imagining the flow of the air and also the energy. And as you breathe out, let go of all of the disturbing emotions and confusion and tiredness and illness in the form of black smoke. So just breathe it out. Release all of those inner toxins. And then into that vacuum, then effortlessly breathe in golden light, the essence of which it's all of the enlightened qualities, all of the qualities that we wish to embody in our life. Breathe that in and feel it absorbing into your body. So 3 long leisurely breaths. And then when you're ready, swapping the nostrils over, this time feeling how you're breathing out through the right nostril, breathing out all of those negativities, disturbing emotions, confusions. That black smoke just disappears into space. And as you breathe in through the left nostril, Your whole body is filled with energizing light. Your mind becomes very calm and clear and blissful. So the nostrils swapped over 3 times. And then the final 3 breaths, breathing out through both nostrils, in through both nostrils. Feel even the very subtle negativities, disturbing states of mind, doubts, worries, anxieties, confusions. Release all of those and see how, as you're getting more subtle, the smoke becomes thinner, a little less dense. It's still so good to breathe it out. All that clinginess and stickiness, breathe it out. And as you breathe in through both nostrils, the enlightening energy floods through you and energizes you. Every atom of your body becomes radiant. So 3 times through both nostrils. And then staying with that radiance and clarity, letting your mind just be focused on the gentle in and out of your breathing, clarity outside of you, clarity within. Let it come to your mind. What are the important things this week? What really mattered? Let those questions arise. Why am I here? What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? If we had all the perfect conditions, what would we be doing with our life? Is there anything left over? Is there anything niggling at us that now we've got the space to look at? And just let those answers naturally arise in your mind. And we can focus them by thinking everything that we talk about and reflect on today, may it be part of our path to full awakening and enlightenment, and may it be able to benefit ourselves and everyone we come into contact with, and may that benefit spread out without any limit. So may this benefit last all the way to enlightenment for ourselves and all beings. And so then all the effort we put in will be so worth it. And so then gently bringing your focus back to the room and uh, open your eyes and let's see, did anything come up immediately for someone to share? How's the week been going? I mean, there's lots of themes for the week, isn't there? But what's the go? Here's Shayla.
Miffi, I have been really struggling with my speech. especially, I'm a retired police officer, so I've always been able to, have that kind of graceful speech where I could say the things that I wanted to say. But honestly, now I can't because somebody will hit me or worse. But and I realized that that's just not always the way things need to be handled now, since Buddhism. But
yep, I hear you. I know. I get it. So, when I first came to Langri Tangpa Centre as the program coordinator, I grew up in Langri Tangpa Centre, and then, left for sex, drugs, and rock and roll pretty much, and also for artistic reasons, making costumes and stuff. And I only came back to Langri Tangpa Centre when my mother, who founded it, was dying of cancer, and it was kind of like I was attempting to step into her shoes and keep her life work going. And so I'd come from this background of alternative musicians, the pub scene, alternative circus, magicians, and of course, all of them swore like troopers. Swore actually like really well-educated Shakespearean pirates, no less. And so then I got to a Buddhist center. It's like, whoops, I can't say anything because my language is colorful. And so the first year, everyone thought I was cool. It was so hard to and that kind of censorship of your speech, like on the lower scope, it's really good because on the lower scope, you're refraining from harm and you're just worrying about not causing harm with your speech or with your body. And you deal with your mind kind of later in private, but at least we're not making the situation worse. But that's like beginning stages. That's lower scope teachings, and it's not really enough because what you might have found and what I found is that then you get this inner censorship happening, and then you lose your voice, you lose your authentic way of communicating. Yeah, okay, so you're nodding there. And so that's kind of like, well, we've got to go back and revisit it again. And that's really tricky. So added to that, so then you try and have beneficial speech. So that I found was far more rewarding to do because instead of going no, 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 don't and squishing everything down and creating a vacuum, like now I can't say anything, now you've got the opportunity to make your speech really nice. So does anyone remember the four, like we pretty much know the four non-virtuous ways of speaking, but then there are their opposites, the four virtuous ways. Does anyone remember those? Hang on, you're muted, Shayla. But
sorry, I don't think I've ever heard the virtuous.
So we've got the non-virtues, 10, so there's 10 altogether. These are they're not all of them, but they're the main activities that we've got to refrain from to make just making things worse. So the three physical things that we should never do is kill a human being. And if we're in a situation where we're not going to kill a human being, then at least to not be physically aggressive and cause physical hurt, to not steal, and to not cheat on your partner or someone else's partner. So no sexual misconduct. So they're the three of the body that we avoid. But then what do we do instead? So this one's really nice. So instead of taking life, now we protect life. So we get proactive about it. Instead of stealing, we share to our ability to do so. And instead of cheating, then, we honor the relationship. We stay faithful. Now with the speech, so the speech, did you remember what the speech ones were, Shayla?
I would say gossiping, cussing. I would have to say just saying mean things and probably, I don't know, maybe yelling. I don't know. I don't remember.
No, you've done really well, and that's in our colloquial language, which is the way to do it. So the main things to avoid, so gossiping, yeah, it's seen as a little tiny thing, but it can have really catastrophic consequences. And we've seen gossiping online, how that can ruin people's lives, can't it? So that's a small thing that turns into a big thing. Really good to avoid. Cussing, that's a nice term. Or so that one, that's a contextual one, because when you're in the pub surrounded by Shakespearean swearing pirates, cussing's not a problem. But when you're in a Buddhist center, it is. So it's not the what me as the subject thinks about it, it's how it lands. So if it's offensive speech to somebody else, even if it's not to me, then that's counted as a non-virtuous action, or an action that creates suffering. Then slander. So talking badly behind people's backs, saying untrue things, divisive speech. And so that one is kind of like where we focus, we become overly critical. And of course, the big one, which we'll all kick ourselves for forgetting, lying. And so lying, the big lie is lying about your own wisdom or your own abilities, like being a charlatan, a religious charlatan, or a quack doctor, or something where people rely on you and you're faking it. That's the big lie. So that, we take those out, but then we're left with a vacuum. So what do we do instead? This is the great bit. So when we speak, we try and speak truthfully. But truthfully isn't enough. With being truthful has to be tempered with the other ones. I've learned this the hard way, because I'm a bit like you, Shayla. I just say the hard truth, and it's hard. And so it doesn't make you any friends. And in fact, people would like to shoot the messenger a lot. So how to temper being truthful, that it's harmonious. So it actually helps to create harmony rather than division. So that's a nice way to temper it without censoring yourself, that you think, is this creating harmony? Is this helping or not? That it's gentle. So instead of it being harsh, like cussing, it's gentle. And we just think of our lamas, how they speak gently to us and how it brings out the best in us, how encouraging they are. And then instead of gossip, then useful. So useful meaning doesn't have to be deep and meaningful, but you have set a good motivation. And so even if you're there trying to zip your lip, as Venerable Ravina says, and you can't really say anything about anything because it's going to be incendiary, you can do it instead of with a motivation of resentment. You can do it with a motivation of to help the situation, to make a nice connection with someone so they trust us and feel safe, and so they, we're there for them in the future. So I found those quite helpful, that what to do instead.
I've never heard that, and so that's just, I love the gentle and I love the useful. It makes total sense, because that's where I'm having trouble. I've had some luck with the four opponent powers and Vajrasattva, but it seems like I get to the point where the mouth just wants to run. It's kind of like an attachment, like I have to say something.
Yeah, I know, I get it. So, and again, I don't think you have to go all the way to censoring yourself, but you do have to slow it down. And so my little trick there is I say to myself, yes, you can say it, Miffy, but tomorrow. It's really good.
I like that. I can say it tomorrow and I don't have to say it immediately right now. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay.
And then, of course, by tomorrow you would have calmed down and the compulsiveness would have dissolved. And it's the compulsiveness, like you said, that real urge to say it. That's what gets us into trouble. Actually, not what we're going to say, but it's because we're not in control of our mind and we're being compulsive that it turns out wrong. So it's really with your eye on the long game. And we don't necessarily always get to say it tomorrow. Um, and we just got to suck that up, you know. Uh, a lot of things go by the way and you don't get to say your piece, but you haven't made it worse and you haven't created a road rage incident and, you know, all of those things. So you've kept the peace. Um, and so with that view to the long game, then there might be another situation in 5 or 6 years where it comes up again and you know what to say. You're prepared because you've done the work before. So I've got a lot of conversations on hold and they're ready. They're ready for if that's it that ever comes up again. And so because you're prepared and it's not compulsive, what happens is you get more skilled and it can become teaching moment, as they say. Uh, but it takes a lot of effort to be able to sit with it like that. And it's not always good to hold your peace. You've got to figure out why you're holding it, why you're zipping your mouth. And if you're just zipping it to shy away from conflict, it's not the best reason. Because often we do that because we, like me, I'm just shy of conflict. I'd do anything not to be in conflict. And so I let a lot of things slide that it's not fair on them to let it slide because it's not good speech and it's not good behavior. And I'm like an enabler by not saying anything, lets it all keep going. So the motivation to zip your lip, you've got to make it really clear that it's to not create any more harm and to let that compulsive uh, urge subside. But then you've got to go back to it and address the situation. Otherwise, it'll just happen again. And then we're just kind of, we're just kind of being cowards and running away from the conflict. But it's not dealing with the conflict.
I think if I were to let it build up, it would just turn into it would gain speed. Yeah. So I like taking some time, but then returning to it. So yeah.
Taking some time and also, but what we do in our distracted world is we take some time, we go, oh yeah, do it tomorrow, takes the edge off it, we don't retaliate. And then we're feeling fine tomorrow, so we don't do anything. And that's the problem. Uh, the cats are being naughty. They're jumping on the chandeliers out there. I kid you not. So the other thing that came to mind about this, it's so amazing that you brought it up, Shayla, because apart from my coming back to Langri Tangpa Centre and learning how to speak again in a civilized way, um, just in the last couple of years, I've had a late diagnosis of autism, and it's explained a huge amount of why I've just continuously got into trouble in my life. And so I've just spent 18 months going to a speech pathologist because autism, it's like a hidden disability. You wouldn't know it, but I'm severely disabled when it comes to speech. And why is because I just hear the words. And when human beings communicate, it's 35% tone, it's 58% body language, and it's 7% words. So in my speech pathology counseling sessions, this is what I've been discovering. And what I hear is words. So I'm only getting 7% of your communication. And then when I communicate, I'm all about the specific words with their specific meanings. But you're only getting 7%. And so it's a miracle that we communicate at all. And that's why I love Zoom, because you've got no chance for tone and you've got no chance for body language. So for me, I'm in my element. I'm so happy on Zoom, and everybody else hates it because they're like this bottleneck of only 7% communication. But anyway, so the other thing I learned about from my speech pathologist is indirect and direct communication. So I don't understand indirect communication at all. And the most prevalent instance of indirect communication is amongst one's peers. So with the people that are your equal, the usual way to communicate is indirectly. For your superiors and your inferiors, you communicate directly, and that's counted as being polite. But if you communicate directly to your friends, most people see it as rude. So right there is what's called the double empathy problem, where people misperceive you. And so, you've got this way that's comfortable to communicate, and then it lands wrong. And this is where, speech, it's a real amazing dependent arising, because it's not just what you say, it's how it lands. And so what I say, you're responsible for in a way, as well as me. So autistic people, what we do is assume the responsibility for you too, because we're in the minority. Of course, anyone who's in a minority wears the result of that, whether you're a minority woman, Black, Asian, autistic, disabled, whatever, you wear it. It's me that wears the results of other people's misunderstanding. But from a Buddhist point of view, this is really good, because this is where you're first forced to do the work. So you, Shayla, you're in this situation where you've got a natural wish to communicate directly. Gets you into trouble. I love it. You're just hanging around with the wrong people. But the whole thing with thought transformation is we're forced to do the work. So we actually are the ones that then benefit. So for me, I've benefited because here I am on Zoom in my happy place. So you too, you can really benefit from this, because you can take it deeper to really get to know your speech and make it Buddha's speech. What do you think about that?
I like that. I like that a lot. And, even that split second of having to turn on, unmute myself, that gives me that split second to think before I speak, which I agree with you. It's very, very helpful. So
Yeah. Actually, that's a really good one. So every time we unmute, just that action. So that can be like the unmute mudra. It can be the Buddha speech mudra, unmute.
The Buddha power button.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like that a lot.
Excellent. Okay, so anybody else? Anything come up from this about speech? Who else has something?
Miffi, I'm just
Yeah.
curious to know, does autism, as you were describing it, have anything to do with introversion? Do they intersect in some way? Does one trigger the other? Are they related?
Okay, so introversion is a psychological term, and so it's part of a theory. And I think a lot of introverted people may be autistic, but autism is like it's a physiological disorder. You're born with it. It's not a psychological disorder. Uh, and so what's kind of interesting, so when 'cause I studied Jung's type of theory of typology, and uh, it was Inter who started Langri Tangpa Centre, actually also founded the Queensland Carl Jung Society. So we studied typology, and in the general populace, INFP, introverted, intuitive, feeling, perceptive, as a type, the general populace is the least. It's like 8% or something of the general populace. And in a Buddhist center, it's like 30%. It's huge. So introverts are really, and that particular type of introvert, very attracted to Buddhist centers. And so I've seen a lot of memes and stuff on online where there's lots of jokes about introverts, but actually it's almost like in the old money. The new money, a lot of those are undiagnosed autistic people. And same for me. And with the typology, like when I first came to Langri Tangpa Centre, I was typology wise um, extremely introverted and on the extreme of the thinking spectrum of from perceptive to thinking. May not make any sense to you, but really extreme. And so I would say to people, I'm really introverted, and they just not believe me. And then, but that's actually evidence that it's the autism showing through. Then after like how many 20, 30 years at Langri Tangpa Centre, I've redone that typology test and I've actually changed. So I've gone from being absolutely on one end of the scale, introverted, to being smack bang in the middle, introverted, extroverted. But how I read that is actually that I'm just being a little bit more authentic now. And I remember back to when I was at school, I was really outgoing at school. So all of this, they're just different models. And in olden days, I thought it was really helpful to just say to people, I'm introverted. Because what does it do? They understand that's why you're not going to their party. Not that you're snubbing them, but you just introvert and they go, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. And it's helpful. So, for that, but autism, it's a physiological thing. And the main things about it is the it's real sensory sensitivity. And so there's a bit in your brain that is like oversensitized to everything all the time. So one of the results of that for me is I discovered that's why I yell all the time because I'm yelling over all the alarm systems in my own experience. And it's like all the noise and all the alarm systems and everything coming at me that I'm just yelling over the racket. But I'm actually in a quiet room. That's one thing. So the other one is um real problem with communication with neurotypical people because direct communication, very literal. And so the communication difference is it's a real hidden disability. But what's interesting with this double empathy problem is that you get a whole bunch of autistic people together, they can communicate no problem, whether they're verbal or non-verbal, no problem. Get a whole bunch of neurotypical people together and they can communicate fine. So the problem isn't with the communication, it's when you get autistic people and neurotypical people together, two different communication styles, big clash.
What is neurotypical again?
The general populace.
All right.
Yeah. So without these kind of physiological differences.
Right. That's interesting.
And so, I mean, the benefit for Langri Tangpa Centre is, I mean, one of the third thing about autism is having really intense focus and so-called special interests. So whatever your mind focuses on, it can focus on for hours and hours and hours obsessively for years and years and years. And so the joke is, you end up being a train spotter. But there are a lot of autistic people in Dharma centres because the personality type, the physiological type of an autistic person is perfectly suited to long-term retreat and intense Dharma study. And so then, I asked everybody, so what do you reckon my special interest is at Langri Tangpa Centre? I mean, I am a bit of a train spotter, but apart from that. And so everyone said, oh, crochet. And I'm like, face palm, you're kidding me. Crochet's like 2% of my mental energy. My special interest is Langri Tangpa Centre. That's why I've been here for 29 years. Anyway, so that's the boon to the Langri Tangpa Centre, that they've got that is my special interest. Then it's 24 hours a day, and I dream about it, and I do every single night for 30 years, sorting out the problems. So anyway, it's a bit of my rave, but how, again, like, our whole thing as a Buddhist is to not judge by appearances. And not only that, is to not believe appearances. And so in a way, like, I'm a walking affront to people because I don't appear disabled and I am disabled. And I appear rude and abrupt, but I'm actually not. I'm just being clear. But being clear to your peers is, in an ordinary world, rude and affronting. But in all cultures, there are some cultures where being really clear is the thing to do, but I just wasn't born into that type of culture. So, but so I find it's almost like I'm secretly testing people. I have funny hair and all of this, so I look like a crazy cat lady. And then I see, especially in the Buddhist world, and this happens when I go on long retreat, like to Bendigo or something, when Lama Zopa Rinpoche was doing the retreats in Bendigo, and I'd see who actually thinks I'm a crazy cat lady. And then it's like, haha, but that's my Buddhist test on you, because are you believing the appearances? And so then very quickly I could figure out who's naturally got that to see below the surface and who's just going on autopilot. Everything is as it appears. And to me, it's really quite crucial to figure out who's who in that. Otherwise, I'm getting in trouble all the time. So what questions have come up now, Susan?
Well, I don't know. It occurred to me, I'm an extreme social introvert. And
good for you, as Venerable Robina would say, good for you.
well, it becomes like an obsessive way of thinking sometimes too, And what really helps me is functioning in an extrovert way.
Yeah.
Being in an extrovert format, being in that kind of place.
Yeah. Well, that's how I did it. I just pretended to be my friend who's really extroverted. And that's actually, like, that ability to be able to do that, to function in a way that isn't your natural way. That's That's what we do in thought transformation. That's what we do in tantric practice. You try on a new way of being and you actually let it change your personality and it helps you. And, half the time we're thinking, oh, am I a fraud or a charlatan or am I just pretending? It doesn't matter because it's the effect. We get the effect. So you put on being an extrovert and you get the effect, the benefit of being able to go out and do those things. It takes effort, but you get the benefit from it. So it doesn't matter if it's real or not. So it's a really big skill.
And then when I go back at the end of that, let's say that work day, whatever, work situation, go back to being an introvert. It's much more calming. It's much less obsessive state of mind. It feels much better.
Yeah. Well, that is fantastic. So you must get enough recovery time or have enough in your mind that you're not fighting against it, but you're being able to recover.
Yeah, I don't know, because the time spent on being like an extrovert, I really enjoy that because it's like freedom. I'm free of that obsessive. And then at the end of that, when that closes, then at the end of that, go back to my natural self, which is an introvert, social.
Yeah. So what you could do, which is what I forgot to do for many, many years, is instead of just trying to be my friend who's extroverted, I should have tried to be Tara, green Tara, who's extroverted. Like take it up a notch. So when you're going out being extroverted, you can be like you can channel, you can have, whether you've had Tara initiation or if you haven't, then you have Tara in your heart with her foot forward, she's ready to go. She's an extrovert. And so you can have not just being extroverted, but being enlightened extroverted. So that momentum that you have, it's an already established kind of psychological thing that you're doing. Then you can bring in this, you can deepen it with this Dharma approach. Be extroverted Tara, and so then it'll really benefit people as well. So even if you've got an ordinary work,
that sounds
making
good.
that connection with
I
there
have
you
Tara.
go.
It's right in front of my computer.
There you are. There you are. So you just have her guide you. And then what you do at work isn't just worldly, then it can become, it's got that big vision, making connections all the way from here to enlightenment for the benefit of everybody, the ultimate benefit. So it becomes a Dharma thing. Daryl, you put your hand up too.
Yes. Look, I can really relate to this whole situation. I've got people working next door at the moment doing some outdoor work and things. So I won't
Can't
go
hear
on.
it. Oh,
Sorry?
I can't hear it, but you probably
On and
can.
off. But my introversion is that intense for me that I won't go outside now and get in the car to go to the shop until they finish tonight in case I have to interact, say hello,
I
or
know.
I don't like going to the shops because I love the self-serve thing because I don't have to interact with anyone. Zoom has been amazing for me because I used to just have my camera off. But I trust you. I've known you for a while now. And so I come to class and I'll turn my camera on. I can't hold a job down. I feel like I can't work for more than, say, 6 or 12 months before the show that I have to put on every day. I just can't do it. I've just got to go home and take a big breath. And
Yeah.
like I'm booked in to come and see Geshe Tenzin Zopa in September at Langri Tangpa. I will worry about this until I've been and come back home for the next few months.
So in a situation like this, it is perfectly acceptable to go to a Dharma teaching with dark glasses on in the daytime, in the nighttime, doesn't matter. Because people see you come in and most of them will think, oh, it's a bit weird, but we're in a Dharma center, everything's weird. people who get migraines will just go, oh, he's got a migraine, call Daryl. And anyone who's introverted or autistic will go, ha ha, don't worry, I'm not going to talk to you. You can sit next to me.
That's amazing. I do absolutely love my sunglasses. I find them that really protective barrier,
Yeah.
not making eye contact. But
And
I
in
hate
fact,
it.
if you're light sensitive, you can wear, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama does, he wears a visor. So the visor stops the light coming, bright lights coming down, and then the glasses stop it coming in. And you're not wearing a hat, so it's not rude.
Okay. I really hate it about myself though. I just I've found I've built this wall and then I've extended that wall around the few people that I let in as well. And
Yeah.
it just becomes really restricting. And so the whole becoming your own therapist is really become very important to me to try
Yeah.
and pull little bits away out of the wall so I can have a little sort of peek through and see what's on the other side. And yeah, so
Yeah.
this is amazing this
Well, you
morning.
may very well be an undiagnosed autistic too. And because like now the diagnosis is really changing and it's a lot driven by autistic people. And, just even 3, 4, 5 years ago was like back in the dark ages. So it really is, um, now is a good time to really find out about it. And then now finally there are resources. And the more I find out about it, the more I can see how beneficial it is for Dharma practice and Dharma study, especially in a distractible world. But you have to, just like, in the lower scope, you remove yourself from distractions so you can practice Dharma, or, you, you, you don't go out to the shops and indulge in all sorts of things because it's just distracting. So you don't go there, so you don't think about it. So a similar thing, if you're autistic and you have a sensory overload, you've got to protect yourself. And that's hard. It's just as hard as a Dharma Dharma practitioner, to protect ourselves from the myriad distractions of shopping and everything in daily life. It's a similar thing. We have to protect ourselves from all of this stuff that triggers our grasping or that triggers our just overwhelm. And we have to create that safe space. But you see, what happens when we're just going on autopilot, we have that safe, quiet space, and then we don't use it, or we don't invite the right people in. And the more triggered and overwhelmed we become, the more you're just trying to get some breath, just get your head above water and breathe. Forget about getting a safe space. And that really is the samsaric experience. That's what we're all in. We're all in this world where we're, everything outside and then everything from inside is overwhelming us and we can't breathe. And that's actually in one of the Buddhist prayers. May I liberate those not yet liberated, and may I give breath to those unable to breathe. It's so profound because that's the samsaric state. So we can get a lot of insight from our experience and just real basic things, Daryl, like give yourself some space. And then my counselor said this fantastic thing, which was 50% of the time, get the space and the recovery, and the rest and the just like total exhaustion. And then the second 50% of the time, put in something good. So something that you like doing and that gives you energy. And it's so practical because otherwise we're overwhelmed by life. We just collapse through exhaustion. Yes, we have rested, but we haven't done anything to help ourselves. So then we've got to put the good stuff in. So come to a puja online or do a meditation or do some crochet or go for a walk. All of those things that put the energy in. Read your favorite Dharma book. Listen to Venerable Robina podcast. in the privacy of your own lounge room instead of in the how confronting it is in person. Put the good stuff in, and that way we'll progress. Mm.
Thank you so much, Miffi.
Yeah, look, thanks, Daryl. I hear you. I hear you both, and there's probably other people too. It's a really big deal. And like yeah, it's like a world-changing paradigm to discover on a conventional level. It's a conventional truth, whether we're introverted, whether we're autistic, whether we're disabled, whether we discover, hey, we come from a whole different ethnic background than I was brought up to believe, all of these things, whether we figure out that we're adopted. There's a paradigm shift about who we are, and who we are on a conventional level matters because that actually is our context. We're contextual beings. We are dependent arisings. Ultimately, there is no real autism or real introversion. And ultimately, we've got the potential to be a Buddha. But we have to recognize our conventional existence authentically. And so I think what happens in a Dharma center is we just flip to the ultimate. We go, oh, well, autism doesn't exist truly, really. Introversion doesn't exist truly, really. So it doesn't matter. But that's wrong. It does matter. It's our context. It's our karmic inheritance. We have to work with it or it's going to backfire. And we can work with it because we know, hey, ultimately, we can all change. And Susan, you've experienced that change just by trying it on, trying on being an extrovert. We can change. It is possible, but it doesn't totally deny the conventional reality, which we still have to work in. It's a really tricky tightrope, I tell you.
Thank you, Miffi. It's very
Yeah.
useful.
And thank you. I mean, it's really big things to share, but I mean, Dharma centers and Buddhism in itself is goes against the stream. It goes upstream. So if you're a person that is in any kind of minority, then you should feel really comfortable at a Dharma center because now you're with your people. And so don't bring all of that pressure from the external world into the Dharma center. Just be yourself. Being a Buddhist is really radical. It's really on the edge. It's completely socially unacceptable. You're not materialistic. You're not trying to make money. You're trying to go within. There's no outward productivity. All of this stuff, doesn't fit in the ordinary world. So let yourself feel comfortable in a Dharma center. I mean, you're already partway there, right?
And with Zoom, we are in a Gompa. We're in a Zoom Gompa.
That's right. That's right. We are. And it really is. It's a Zoom Gompa, and we're manifesting as pixels of light. So we're already, and I mean, see, even with Zoom, I found it so beneficial because I can see my own face. And so I can calibrate when I need to smile. Because before I could see my face, I had to be leading a class and also thinking, how long ago was it since I smiled, so for that, it's made it really easy. Now I know what's going on. It's like getting this really wonderful biofeedback loop. And I was thinking the other day, one of the great things about all the lockdowns and wearing masks and everything, because it all happened at the same time for me, wearing a mask I was like, it's the first time in 3 decades that I can relax my face because I can be out in public and I can just relax my face because no one can see it. and then it hit me, oh my gosh, the whole time that I'm with people, I am performing just to get through. And it is so exhausting. And so this is the thing at a Dharma center, you know, and what monks and nuns, they wear the same things. They shave their head. Everybody looks the same. You can relax your face. So you can relax your personality. You can relax. You don't have to present. When you go to a Dharma center, don't ever feel that you have to present, because people come to a Dharma center when things are tough. So you don't feel that you have to put on the good face. You can have the things a tough face, and that's okay. Actually, that's far better at a Dharma center to just know at least there it's clear ground, it's uncorrupted. I don't have to I don't have to be fake. I can actually just be how it is. And that's the most authentic way to get started. And if your authentic way to get started is with your visor and your sunglasses, and you find someone that goes, don't worry, I won't talk to you, you stick with them. And I'll just wave at you. I won't even say hi. And you know, lots of people think that's rude, right? But actually to me it's like, oh, phew.
I always wondered if I could just say, or hold up a sign that says, I'm in silence.
That's another really good. So yes, that's already the precedent has been set. You have your little Buddhist center I'm in silence sign. Perfect, Shayla. Excellent. And not only that, then you offer it to others, because then they're not going to be gabbing on stupid small talk in a Dharma center. So you save them from that too. Oh, yes. And of course I say to all the new students that come, when you walk into a Gompa, it is one of the places on the earth, just like a cathedral or a church, where you're supposed to sit and be silent. So, you know, you're in reception, everyone's chatting, but if you go into the Gompa and you sit, everyone knows you're sitting there being silent, and it's what you're supposed to do. So that's another thing too. Then don't feel like, oh, you've got to bring all the chit chat into the Gompa. No. And in fact, if you're sitting there being silent, other people remember, oh yeah, I'm in a Gompa. No more chit chat. So the secret life of an introvert can be very beneficial for other people. So with that, it's just on the hour. Let's dedicate our conversation. As usual, I've talked the most, but look, thank you so much for sharing really deep, personal, and probably quite raw stuff. That's exactly what we should do with our Dharma journey. So thank you very much. I feel very honoured, and let's dedicate all of that courage and all of that trauma and all of that thinking about it, that this is our Dharma path, and this will really, if we think about it properly, this will really propel us towards realizations and good-heartedness and enlightenment for the benefit of all. So just lock it in there. This is our direction. We dedicate everything to that very biggest vision. Our own enlightenment for the benefit of every single living being. So thank you so much, everybody. Take care, and see you all next week.
Miffi, thank you so much for the tips, and sorry about Tashi, the barking one.
It's okay. Sorry about the meowing cat either. Sherry Poo is like, me. I want to join the conversation. See you.